You got me welcoming you to the Weekly Spinner Rack. My name is Chris, and I'll be your host today. What do we do here? We talk about comic book news. We take a look at the latest comics. There's some interesting ones this week. There's some also really good news to riff on and talk with you folks in the chat about, including how the media is melting down about San Diego Comic-Con. It's going to cease to exist as soon as HBO and Netflix pull out. I've got my own take on all that. And that's just one piece of news. We've got Marvel using AI imagery. That did not go over well this past week. Jack Kirby Estate responding to the Stan Lee document. In court, he responded to the document. And also, I went to a local comic convention this past weekend. So let me greet a few of the people that are here early. I'm not going to catch everybody because it looks like it's going pretty fast. But let me start, and I'll just acknowledge that we've got a full chat room, and I always love that. Hello to Tongue Baby and Dr. Shoebill. Is that the creature from the Black Lagoon? That's awesome. Samuel, Michael, having trouble with my mouse. JR, Gantris. Let's see. Yup, the Beowulf has it right. All Comic-Cons are now over forever. Let's see. We've got Tit Goblin. I can't keep up, everyone. I'm not trying to ignore anyone. Just throwing out a few names there. Hey, there we go. Yeah, for the Paste Pot Fund. Thank you, Christopher DeRose. I always need a little bit of money for that paste that I put together so that one day you're going to see me in one of the live-action Marvel movies as Paste Pot Pete. Not the Trapster. No. As Paste Pot Pete. That's definitely going to happen. No question. No question. There's probably going to be like 200 of us live watching this, a few thousand by the end of the week. I think that's enough. That should definitely justify Marvel hiring me. Hello, Kale. I'm doing pretty darn well. Look. Woo! I'm doing pretty well. Ooh, I started slipping accidentally into my Robert Kirkman impression there. Oh, how y'all doing? You guys want to read some Void Rivals? That's a pretty accurate impression if you know him. Let's see. What's up from Toronto? We got a little bit of international intrigue going on here. Nice to see you. Toronto is a huge, wonderful city, by the way. It's like I might enjoy Vancouver a little bit more as far as Canada goes, but there's a lot of Canada that I still need to explore. Toronto is really awesome. Hey, Daniel, always nice to see you in here. Daniel writes comics, is from Sweden, and he has a YouTube channel. You can look his name up, and he's got a lot of rickshaw rides in Japan right now, so that's kind of fun. I'll get started pretty soon on the news, but just want to acknowledge a few things here. Just watched the Nightcat video, fun stuff. Thank you so much for watching it. Yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that one. Sometimes doing the sort of jokey ones about a comic that isn't great is a little easier and more fun for me, even though I know people tend to like a more in-depth analysis or criticism, and that's fine. I like doing that stuff too, but it takes a little bit longer to do those. Case in point, I'm still working on the next comic Tropes. Some of you will know what I mean when I say that it involves Argentine artists working in Italy, and then Canada adapted it by hiring some Japanese artists. So it's a very international affair that I'm going to discuss this week. Oh, look at that. Thanks for reigniting my love of comics. Oh my God, that's like one of the nicest compliments I could receive. Because honestly, I just love the medium of comics, and I love talking about it, and I love sharing what I think is cool or interesting about it. So that really does mean a lot to me. Thank you so much. That's a super kind word. Oh, look, it's my buddy Hooded Cobra Commander. And Hoodie, I'm wearing something appropriate for you. I'm going to show in just a sec. Hooded Cobra Commander does reviews of every vintage G.I. Joe figure and vehicle, and I grew up on that stuff. I love it. Love his channel. In July, he organizes, and this is so much work, he organizes with the whole G.I. Joe community so that there are videos and podcasts and blog posts and all sorts of amazing things about G.I. Joe's enemy, Cobra, every single day of July. Cobra Convergence. This is the 7th collaboration to do that. Pretty amazing. And hoodie, look at what I got today. This is my new shirt. And you can see that I'm also slimming down a little, right? A little. I mean, I've got more to it. But this is based on the classic. This is based on the classic cover to G.I. Joe number 21, the silent issue. Art here by the writer of G.I. Joe. Art by Larry Hama. Inks by Steve Leialoha. And that's actually, you know what? That's a good segue. Segue king here. Let me show you this. Like I said, I went to a comic convention, a local one to me. It's called Washington SummerCon. It's, you know what's nice about it? A, it's local. B, it's inexpensive. I forget the exact price, but it's something like, say, $25 compared to Emerald City Comic Con being like $70. So that's already great. And then they get a bunch, like a lot of great guests, a lot of entertainment guests, a lot of anime voice actors and stuff. And then a bunch of comic book creators, which I'll talk about, but I want to acknowledge this lovely super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Owen, you rock. Got me reading Uncanny X-Men and Justice League International. Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. Let's see. Thunderstorms in Syracuse, New York, and pros and cons. I miss thunderstorms. We don't really get them much out here on the West Coast in Seattle. We get lots of drizzly rain, but we don't get thunderstorms too much. I miss it. Let's see. Lots of Argentine artists are more popular in Italy than Argentina. Yeah, there's an interesting crossover there, going all the way back to guys like Hugo Pratt. But anyway. So these are just a few photos that I got here. This is me meeting Larry Hama again. This time, though, I got to really spend a little bit of time talking to him because it's a slightly smaller convention. My friend Tim and I watched his table for a little while when he needed to use the restroom. I saw a panel by him and got to ask questions. Got a commission by him. I'll show you that in just a sec. Who else did I meet here? Marv Wolfman. Yeah, I mean, New Teen Titans, Crisis on Infinite Earths. I just had him sign an issue of Tomb of Dracula that I liked. He was really friendly. Got to talk to him a little bit. Steve Englehart. And while we talked a little about comics, I also saw the shirt, and I talked to him about a recent trip that he and his wife did to Southern Africa, both South Africa, Zambia, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Botswana. And he talked about like that. And that's something I'd like to do. So like I got some good advice there. Getting some more super chats. Wow, that's really kind. Let's see. Heroes Con is where it's at. Yeah, I always hear great things about Heroes Con, that it's a really good focus on comics. They get a lot of amazing creators. I haven't been to it. I would love to. I would sincerely love to. Dr. Schubill, I'm pretty sure means to say heat wave in Louisiana. Oh, wow. I lived in New Orleans for 4 years when I went to college. So I know that like beyond heat, it's also very humid. So yeah, that's a lot. And who was another creator that I met here? Yeah, Mark Waid. I got him to sign Kingdom Come and talk to him a little bit. By the way, he said that the Flash movie is in the process of correcting the fact that they overlooked crediting him. So this is the guy that invented the idea of the Speed Force, which is pretty important to like every comic book, TV, and movie version of Flash that has come since he introduced that concept. And I told him how much I'm enjoying his current book with Dan Mora, World's Finest. So that's a good one. Anyway, so that was fun for me, you know. I think I also have some photos of some of the stuff that was going on there. There was this amazing guy that I think 3 days of the Comic-Con. Let me make sure that shows up. Isn't that impressive, folks? There's Steranko. Didn't really have any interest in talking to him. I've got mixed feelings about Steranko. He is quite an artist, but yeah. This is some great cosplay. Always saw this guy around here. His daughter conked out like about 2 hours into the show, but and there I am meeting ET, the actual ET. Let's see. More money for the PC fund? Oh, thanks, Steve. Thanks, Steve. As soon as I get like a day where I can just sort of devote like an entire day to driving down, I would like to go down to Portland and get it down there because I haven't been there. Yeah, I know, Rob. Rob, you're like, it's a pretty big oversight. So I was like, look, I'm not asking you something to be awkward or anything. I really don't want to upset you, but like, am I right that I didn't see your name in the credits? He was like, you're right. He's like, if you asked me a week ago, I would have been touchy about it. But like, my understanding is they're working on fixing that. I go, okay, cool. Thank you so much for talking to me about it. That's really nice. You know what? He's neither a diva nor down to earth. All he just kept doing was asking for Reese's Pieces. So that was pretty weird. Yeah, Larry actually had some things to sign at his desk, primarily prints, including a few of his acting gigs, including, yeah, he was in an episode of MASH. Pastepot there was in spirit. Pastepot. Well, thank you for jumping in, Jose. I appreciate it. And was there anything else that I had from the convention? There's like my cat. Oh, there's me watching Larry's table. And tell you what, let's look at this real quick. So Washington SummerCon makes these nice banners for everybody, which is great. They made a mistake here, and it's small, so I'm going to help you out with it. But they credit him as writer, artist, editor. What's an editor? I thought he might have been an editor, but this says that he's an editor. That was not lovely. And oh, there's the sketch. This cost a little bit, you know, but Larry doesn't do a lot of commissions or anything like that anymore. And I really wanted a piece of art by him, and I decided to have him do Storm Shadow. And I am happy with that. There's just some, like, it was a beautiful day actually. And like lots of people were outside. They've got like sort of 2 convention areas, and there was some fun cosplay. It was really pretty. Didn't know what was going on with this guy. This guy was a toilet walking around, and he had these acorn nuts in his bowl that like people were reaching in and taking. I did not ask any further. Maybe I should have done some investigation and called Child Protective Services. I don't know. And then I was just really impressed with this guy, Master Chief. He was tall. This guy was well over 6 feet, so that was really impressive. Lots of great cosplay, actually. So it was a great convention. And you know what? Before I get into the news, one last thing I wanted to do is there are some wonderful guys on Facebook that are part of what's called Cartoonist Kayfabe Ringside Seats. It sort of started as fans of Cartoonist Kayfabe, but they make their own comics. Eli Schwab here has published a bunch of comics, and he's rounded up some really cool artists to do a new book for Ghost Agents. And Ghost Agents, this is a crowdfunded campaign going on right now. I'll always plug people that I'm like friendly with. Ghost Agents is sort of like a team of agents that are dispatched through all of space and time to confront supernatural issues. So this one's called Crimson Reckoning, and they've got previous stories you can get as well. So I thought I'd put that here. Ghost Agents on Kickstarter, okay? So I wanted to share that. Let me see what the chat's saying, if anything. I feel sorry for the person sweating their nuts off in the fursuit. Yeah, they probably were. You can flush your bad comics there. Oh yeah, it was a great show, especially at like basically the price that they were charging. So yeah. Oh hey, Eli's actually here in the chat. Thanks so much for giving us some of your time, Eli. And look, also Shaw Art Films, grateful for you mentioning Kickstarter for Ghost Agents. This will be my first published work. Well, I definitely remember doing stuff like that with my friends too. So I know how exciting it can be to actually have something in print. I think it looks like a fun book with a lot of cool stories. I really recommend checking it out. There's a lot of crowdfunded comics vying for your attention. but I definitely wanted to take a second to point this one out to you folks. Let's see. TJ Rip says, I bought a few of Eli's books. A whole lot of work goes into his projects, well worth the money. They tend to be pretty nice, big, thick books, really well put together, really well designed. Let's see. Oh, you're not too far from me, Beowulf, if you're down in Beaverton. Let's see. There were fursuiters in the Pride Parade in 85-degree heat. Oh, no thanks. I couldn't do it. I couldn't begin to do it. Let's see. That's what makes it all worth it, man. Love providing that first work in print. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, here I've got my little clickbaity, what do you call it? Thumbnail for what we're going to talk about today. Is San Diego Comic-Con doomed? We'll get to that piece of news. Let me just tell you, if you haven't noticed, no matter what happens, mainstream outlets say this every year. They're always like, "Oh, this is the year. It's going to go away." It's a huge event. But let's start with some other bits of news in here. I was fascinated by this. One Piece on Netflix, live action adaptation. You know, it has to get the approval directly from Eiichiro Oda. It has one of the largest TV budgets ever. It turns out that it's going to cost an estimated $18 million an episode. That's really high. That's more than shows like Game of Thrones or The Mandalorian. So here's some like things that are more expensive, okay? HBO's new House of Dragon show, they spent $20 million on. WandaVision actually cost $25 million. But then again, you got to consider like probably a piece of that went to salaries. You know, they were putting their movie actors in a TV show. Stranger Things is up to $30 million an episode. I like that show a lot. So, okay. Lord of the Rings, $58 million an episode. You're overspending there. You're never going to get that back. You're never going to get that back. I don't know. $18 million an episode. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. So, you know, the cast is all pretty young, not like, you know, tons of credits and everything. I have to imagine that this goes into like building those massive sets, like the boats. I mean, it costs more to film on the water, even if you're not too far out. It just does. It's hard to make film cooperate on the water. Everything's always moving. Everything's always moving. And of course the special effects. But wow, $18 million. Yeah, it's about 1 million doll hairs to produce this show. Let's see. So Netflix is so fickle. Watch it, cancel it after season 1. I was always wondering why Netflix seems to do 1-2 seasons of the shows that I'll enjoy, and then they just cancel it with no wrap up. Like, why do they keep doing that? I figured it out. Because of like what various writers were talking about during this current writer's strike. So it turns out the way Netflix can attract a lot of talent for TV shows specifically is they'll give them contracts where they're paying them a pretty good amount. And then as it goes to further seasons, they get big pay bumps, bigger than a lot of other places, big enough to attract the talent. And then like right before that sort of season 3 or 4, where like their creators get huge raises, that's why Netflix cancels it. They're like, nah, too expensive. Frustrating. Yeah, I am too. You know, maybe, I mean, from what I heard, they filmed most of it. So maybe it wasn't coming out too great, unfortunately, but I still would want to see it. It's Grendel. I would love to see Grendel. I think Grendel has a lot of potential and honestly would probably work better on TV than film, because the Grendel comics are really long form storytelling where you're dealing with a different cast for every sort of big arc, and sometimes you're doing huge time jumps forward. So I think that TV could well, Clay, sometimes it's worth it to them. Sometimes like Netflix has shows that are just huge, you know. So yeah, you know, Stranger Things, Black Mirror, there's probably 1 or 2 others. They hold on to a couple of their things. Ozark, they'll hold on to a couple of their things, but yeah. Still mad they canceled Bone. Yeah, that would have an animated Bone would also be good. And look, I'm so glad that I have the comics, that I have Grendel and Bone. I've done episodes on comic tropes about both of those. Those are both things I really love. But they also have some real potential to get adapted. A well-animated Bone series, I think sounds like it would be humongous. Humongous. Right, Sense8. That was by the Wachowskis, right? Yeah. Well, you got to watch more episodes of this because I definitely talk about comic book news weekly, and yeah, at the time that it was being developed, that was like news we were talking about. When it got canceled, we talked about it. It's frustrating. Um. Anyway, so that's sort of what's happening. I think a lot of times Netflix cancels it because they're like too much money. No, but they attract the talent by promising them, and we're all kind of greedy. If you tell me like you'll get, you're established, you're going to get $100,000 for making season 1, but you'll make 3 million for doing season 2. I'm like, ooh, that sounds like a pretty good deal. And they're like, yeah, but you ain't getting season 2. Bone crosses a lot of demographics. A lot of people would be able to enjoy Bone. It looks like it's, the Smurfs, kid friendly and stuff, but it's quite deep fantasy. It's really, really good. Let's go back to the news though. So, sorry, right. Add that to the stream. So One Piece, just huge budget though. Apparently Fortnite and Marvel are rumored to have another collaboration. They already did a couple things. This was a comic book they had called Zero War. I didn't read that. Grandpa here is getting a little old for some first-person shooters. I've played things like Apex Legends and Fortnite, and I am not competitive enough that it's fun for me. I think that they look like good games, and I like first-person shooters. I'm still decently competitive with Call of Duty, but these games like Fortnite, I'm just not competitive enough, so I'm not super plugged in. Here, I'll show you how fast my thumbs can go. Ready? That's it. That's like 3 times as slow as like an 18-year-old. Twitter user named It's Unusual leaked what's supposedly an email between his local comic shop and Marvel's sales rep, which in the you can go to Twitter and look it up yourself, but it alleges that there's going to be a Fortnite Marvel comic called Order Restored. And if that doesn't sound like your kind of thing, all I can say is Fortnite is humongous, and Fortnite comics sell. They have a lot of merchandise. When I was a kid, you'd have like a cartoon and toys and comics for like G.I. Joe and Transformers. But these days, if you can get that out of a video game, I think it's even bigger. So anyway, and also if you get the comic book, I guess it'll have something like a QR code that lets you get like a free cosmetic Marvel item in each issue. So yeah. Let's see. Fortnite is funny for the collabs and fun if you have a full squad. That would probably make a difference. If I could jump back in time like 15 years, I did have a bunch of friends that I would play that stuff with. So that was kind of fun. Let's see. The only thing I know about Fortnite is that Jim Mahfood did some screen art. The only time I looked into the franchise. That's pretty cool. Oh, Fortnite, everything sells. You could probably have just Fortnite branded ice cream and it would sell, this ice cream tastes like both Fort and Night. So yeah. Let's see. Really wish we can get a Marvel versus Capcom comic. Yeah, that would be fun. That would be a lot of fun. Got other news. Every other year, Top Cow has a talent hunt. They've been doing that since 2012. And they just held their 7th one. The contest itself ended back in December, but it's taken them 6 months to go through all the submissions. They said they had something like just shy of 4,000 submissions, the most they've ever had. So they had to go through a lot of submissions. The winners are for art, and I've got like a page here by them. Bruno Abdias, who I believe was from Brazil, and then writer, the winner was William Billy Muggleberg the third. I think that's his real name, by the way. So yeah, the winners get $1,000 from Top Cow and guaranteed paid published work from the company. And they've discovered some big names. I don't remember all the names that they've discovered. I know one that I like is Isaac Goodhart. He's a more recent winner. Um, yeah. Are your nails painted? They are. They are. Here. Since you're asking, yeah. Gray with an accent nail of like sort of a blue sparkle. I just thought it looked cool. Doesn't mean anything. Just thought it looked fun. That's a Harry Potter-esque name. I guess so. Anyway, so that seemed fun. Boy, I don't know what this is. Og Samson says, you ever get into the Artifactiverse? I've never heard of that, I'm afraid. So no, I haven't gotten into it because I don't know what that is. Tommy says, I entered this. Fun to work on a pre-existing world, but trying to figure out the Cyberforce canon is tough. I bet. But yeah, it limits who's excited about it. Let's see. Do you think more entries due to AI entries? I don't think so. Maybe a few, but I don't think so. Let's see. Chris, nails are cool because he says they're cool. If I knew that's how it worked, I'd be like recommending everything I do from a lot longer ago. These keto waffles sure make me cool. I just think that that's cool that there are still talent hunts. There was a quote from Mark Silvestri about how, that's sort of the lifeblood of comics, and that's their way of trying to engage the next generation of creators is by looking for the new talent. I like it. This one, at first, I was like, okay, yeah, so cool, industry news. And then I started getting a little disappointed as I dug in a little bit. So, a lot of us know that Whatnot is, an online platform for auctions and stuff like that. And that they also have a publishing arm to the company. Most prominently, they own the rights to do Heavy Metal Magazine. Well, they recently renamed themselves Massive Publishing, first of all. So there's sort of the Whatnot app and Massive Publishing. And this week they announced that they hired comic book writer and author Blake Northcott as editor in chief. And I'm going, okay, cool. And then I started looking at her credits. And first things I was finding in Google is she writes a lot of articles, or has anyway, for Bounding Into Comics. That while it isn't branded as such, it definitely seems like a schmame schmate website. I don't know what that joke was. It amused me, folks. Which just isn't really my bag. So I guess those are the people that she's most friendly with, and it just means that I've got a little bit less interest in what Massive has to do. Because I feel like they say that they don't have an agenda, but that really they do have an agenda. And anyway, we'll see. Massive did announce that they're going to publish the Sean Gordon Murphy book, The Plot Holes, which he did like crowdfunding a while ago. And I love Sean Gordon Murphy's artwork. I really do. He's very friendly with that whole team too. So, not my favorite. I don't know if you've ever looked, for instance, at the Bounding Into Comics site. It will like sort of report on a comic book news item, but then it will also go into like usually an editorial essay about, diversity sucks and, all sorts of like right-wing talking points. If I'm being honest, that's what most of those articles do. It's just not for me. If they've got their fan base, fine. That's fine. That doesn't hurt me if that's what they want to do, but it's not, doesn't really click with me. Oh, hold on. I want to acknowledge this is an interesting question. Bear with me. What are my thoughts on the Craven trailer? I know you're a super fan of Last Hunt. I am. That's true. I wanted to know also, did you read 2022's The Lost Hunt? No, I didn't read that one. I didn't read that one. Um, I would say, I don't know. Did the trailer do anything for me? It was a little more violent than I expected. So that was like, it sounds shallow, but like that was one thing that like interested me a tiny bit was I was like, well, if they've got well choreographed and well shot, action scenes like I'd see in something like Extraction or John Wick, okay, I could enjoy it on a level like that, no question. It doesn't seem like it's super accurate to the comics, really. There's a couple nods to certain things. The trailer's weird. It makes it look like a drop of lion blood gets into Craven, and that might give him his powers. But I would imagine that they're magically based since Calypso is in the movie and she has a sort of like voodoo magic powers. So I would imagine it has more to do with that. I don't know. Yeah, it teased the rhino, and it looked like the rhino was, maybe more supernatural based than like a suit or something like that. Um, but let me jump back to the news. Thanks for the question. I'm going to add this to the stream. There's a Batman Day coming up, and Batman Day is always the third Saturday of September, and that is to line up roughly with when he first debuted in Detective Comics number 27 back in 1939, I want to say. I think so. But DC always releases some comics on that day, like on Saturday. Like comic book shops can have something going on Saturday when a lot of people are free, as compared to the Tuesday and Wednesday release day of most issues. So this year, Batman Day is going to fall on September 16th, and they'll have 5 books. They're going to have Batman, Catwoman, Prelude to Gotham War. That's writers Chip Zdarsky, Teenie Howard, Mike Hawthorne on art. A special edition of the Batman and Joker Deadly Duo issue 1 by Mark Silvestri. A special edition of Batman number 608. That was the run Hush with Jeff Leb and Jim Lee. There's going to be a Batman 89 hardcover by Joe Quinones, although I'm pretty sure I have seen that in stores today. And finally, Batman Gargoyle of Gotham by Raphael Grandpa. That's the one that I'd be most interested in checking out for Batman Day. But a lot of stores will do sort of like, just the same kind of stuff that they do on, like, say, Free Comic Book Day. If you come in Batman cosplay, we'll give you a small Batman comic or something. I don't know. If you can do the Batusi dance, you win $20. I'm making stuff up for them. I gave you a little Easter egg nod in the new Tough Stuff. Oh, really? Well, that's cool. I can't wait to find out what it is. Don't spoil it for me. I'll figure it out. Let's see. The Batman 89 comic is different than the 89 adaptation. Well, it continues in that universe. Batman may have had a street date of March 39, but I'm pretty sure Detective Comics 27 came out in September of 39. Pretty sure. There's a reason why they do it. I think that's it. Do we need another Gotham War? Do we need any war? Well, we do need a Star War, don't we? Not Star Wars, but maybe a Stars War. A war, one war across many stars. That's what we need. We need one Stars War. Yeah, Raphael Grandpa is a really unique artist, but I like his stuff quite a bit. I like it quite a bit. Can we talk Flash spoilers yet? I mean, I guess you could talk a little bit about maybe some of the cameos if you really want to at this point, but I wouldn't give big plot points for some people who might still want to see it. I'm not going to talk about it. I just didn't find it interesting enough to really do some sort of a spoilery breakdown. I gave my thoughts on the movie in the episode of this show right when it came out, and that's enough. That's enough. No, Time Wars are bad. Time Wars are very bad. They make it look like you're gonna get rid of all the Daleks, and then they just slowly keep coming back. So it's just a big tease. I would say, you say so disappointing. I would say kind of disappointing, but I didn't think it was a total disaster of a movie, but I also just didn't think it was that great. I'd give it something like 6 out of 10. I don't know. Yeah, Flash is not doing great numbers. It's not going to get any it's not going to get any sequel in my opinion. Like it just isn't making enough money. Just no. George Santos appears, huh? Okay. That makes sense. If an omnipotent being from beyond the stars wanted to amuse himself with champions from Earth, we might need a secret wars of sorts. Yes, that would be a nice secret. And like I said, I want Marvel to let me write a version of Secret Wars where they put together just the villains of the Marvel universe, no heroes, just villains, and force them not just to fight, but like do battles in like, like say like a cooking battle. They're like Doctor Doom, put your cooking skills up against Dr. Octopus, things like that. Peacemaker is the only DCEU with a gorilla. I guess that's probably true because, right, the Flash TV show wouldn't be considered DCEU. Huh. All right. Um, we've got stuff aside from Batman Day. We've got Comic Tropes Day. No, we don't have that. Let's talk about this because I don't think that this was accepted by many people. I've yet to see anybody say, I liked it. Secret Invasion started, and I'm specifically talking about the opening credits to it. The newest MCU show debuted last Wednesday, and they used AI imagery like this for the opening. And I mean, I guess it's because, scrolls are shape-shifty and AI doesn't quite look right. Like you can tell that there's some Samuel Jackson under this, but it's not quite right. So I sort of get what they're doing there, but I think it probably could have been done better with an artist, like coming up with something. Here are some quotes by some people from the industry. Let's see. Christian Ward is an artist on one of the Black Bolt comics, and he said, for Marvel, whose whole empire is built on the work of artists, to do this is disgusting, and I, for one, shan't be watching. Strong statement. This quote is from Jeff Simpson, who was actually a concept artist for Secret Invasion. He said, Secret Invasion intro is AI generated. I'm devastated. I believe AI to be unethical, dangerous, and designed solely to eliminate artists' careers. Spent almost half a year working on this show and had a fantastic experience working with the most amazing people I ever met. So he had a good experience, but yeah, he did not like that they did that. I don't know. Maybe they could have generated some ideas, but then had like an artist actually create something. I agree that like companies would be only too happy to stop paying an artist if AI got good enough that they could replace them. I do think it's I think it's a potential tool, but I think that there are dangers to it. So yeah, I hate it. I personally didn't even like how it looked. I think I got the idea they're going for. Oh, it's a little weird. It's a little off, but I think an artist could do a better job. So I don't know. Yeah, I saw that. Photoshop has AI tools. Like you could just basically select an area and say, and type in like written prompts that Photoshop will understand now. You could say like, erase this person and replace him with a clown on a horse. And Photoshop can now do that. It's a little weird how easy it is. Right. It's penny pinching. It's like, wait, you can go from spending $25 million an episode on WandaVision to you've got a show with Samuel L. Jackson and other Marvel actors, and you're gonna go cheap on the intro. I don't know. Like I feel like there have been a few Marvel shows that have really cool intros. I thought that the Daredevil show on Netflix had a pretty good intro, for instance. I thought that that was well done. Not all of them are memorable. This one will be memorable for the wrong reasons because we're talking about the fact that they used AI. If we didn't talk about it, I think it would honestly be kind of forgotten. I just don't think it looks good. It looks super cheap. I don't think it looks great. Well, yeah, you don't know what it's about? Well, let me continue with some Secret Invasion news, actually. Um, because you and the director, the Secret Invasion director was specifically told not to read the comics. This came from a Screen Rant interview with the director of the first episode. I don't know how many he directed, but Ali Salim. And he's got this quote that I thought was pretty interesting. When I took on this job as director, I didn't write the script, so a lot of those decisions were made by Kyle Bradstreet and the other team of writers we had. The first thing I was told is, don't read the comics. It had nothing to do with what we're trying to do here. I wouldn't say nothing, otherwise you wouldn't even use the title Secret Invasion. Is it a close adaptation of the Secret Invasion comics? Absolutely not. Does it take the broad idea of it? No question. The Secret Invasion comics, and they came out a while ago now, but basically, the Avengers sort of figured out that some of their teammates were Skrulls, shape-shifting aliens that have long been established in Marvel. Not only that, but some of them had been around for quite a while. It's a little bit of a retcon. And it let them bring back a couple characters that have been deceased, saying like, no, they'd actually been abducted by Skrulls. And the people that died were actually Skrulls posing as them. I go, okay, that's not too bad of an idea to bring back a character to. And it's a good sort of, what would I call it? Paranoid suspense thriller, like the movie The Thing, for instance. So that's not a bad idea. This one sort of takes out the superhero element for the most part and instead deals with the characters in the Marvel universe who are the people like that work for government agencies. We've got like Martin Freeman's Everett Ross. He's a CIA agent. We've got Maria Hill and Nick Fury from S.H.I.E.L.D. We've got Rhodey, War Machine. He works with the government, obviously. So a bunch of the characters, Sharon Carter, I think, is going to show up. We've got characters that have got more ties in government. So maybe more of like sort of like an X-Files conspiracy vibe within the Marvel universe. I don't think it's too bad of an idea, honestly, to lower the scale of that because I don't think Secret Invasion, it wasn't my favorite story, but the idea behind it is a good one. So I think that, the idea of like replacing basically world leaders and people in power and having your sort of spy characters rooted out, I think that that's actually a decent idea. And Secret Invasion may prove to be an okay show. We'll see. But it's not an adaptation of the comics, but it is very weird to tell the director here, don't read the comics. Yeah, don't bother getting inspiration from what we got inspiration from. Just as a little point of reminder, I put this little thing in here so I didn't forget. Kevin Feige, before he was the guy that oversaw the MCU, he was like sort of a low-level associate producer working with Avi Arad. So when the first X-Men movie was made, again, like those people did not want comic books on the set. They didn't want people influenced by the comics for some reason. And Kevin Feige is famous for sneaking some of those comics onto the set to show some of the cast and crew. Like, hey, this is what we're taking inspiration from. This is what will like work. Where'd that Kevin Feige go? I would like that. The script is ridiculous. 3 free agents versus 500 terrorist scrolls. Well, it certainly got them as underdogs. I don't know. It's whatever. It's whatever. I think there's only been one episode, so I'm withholding judgment on the Secret Invasion show overall. But I will say, I don't care for the fact that they're using AI, and I think that this is bad advice to say don't read the comics. You never know what kind of inspiration you could find, even if it's not a one-for-one adaptation. I like it when they find ways to adapt, make some changes so that it's a surprise. But anyway. Folks, tragedy. Tragedy has struck. This is much worse than Marvel using AI. The Bad Bunny starring movie El Muerto might not happen. I'm trying to break this to you slowly. Hopefully you guys are sitting down while watching this. I don't want any of you passing out, hitting your head, and bleeding to death. I really would love to slow down how many of my viewers I kill. But yeah, Bad Bunny was going to star as El Muerto. Yes, I'm talking about the Spider-Man enemy that appeared in 2 comic books. They were going to make a movie about him, but Bad Bunny, the rapper / actor who was going to star in it, has he's moved on. He's not going to star in it, and Sony has removed it from their current list of upcoming films. So I don't know. Maybe they'll be able to recast. Maybe George Lopez isn't busy. Maybe he can be El Muerto after Blue Beetle. I don't know. I don't know, folks. It's a lot to take. It's a lot to take. So this is definitely what I should have had in my thumbnail. I know. It was just too much clickbait. It was too much clickbait. I couldn't do it. It leaves the door open for George Santos to star as El Muerto. Yes. Darn it. I killed A-Man. Darn it. He's a regular. Darn it. My dream crossover of El Muerto versus Morbius. Well, that's obviously what Sony is dreaming too. That's obviously what they want. Yeah. So, well, let me just say this. They get Danny Trejo to play El Muerto. I am in all the way. I'm in all the way. If they wanted to do something that bonkers, go ahead. Let's see. I can't believe the movie that was going to overtake Citizen Kane got canceled. Hollywood. Am I right? I've got some more weird Hollywood news later, but yeah. This is a chance to release a Paste Pot Pete movie, if only. Sony does not have the rights to Paste Pot Pete, so they can't plug that gap with Paste Pot Pete. Maybe they could do a Big Wheel movie. That's a Spider-Man villain that nobody really loves. They could do Kangaroo or Leapfrog. I don't know. It's Muerten time. Yep. So just had to pass that on since that's the biggest comic book news of the week. Had to pass that on. Let me get into this. Last week, we saw a response to the new Stan Lee documentary by Neil Kirby, the son of the late, great Jack Kirby. And he had some thoughts on it that, his father wasn't acknowledged enough, which I think is fair. Well, now the official Jack Kirby Estate has issued a formal response. By the way, I think that the documentary is impressively put together and interesting, but I would never recommend using that as your sole point of reference for Stan Lee's history. I think that you need to read several documents, and you can then, by watching this, you can get Stan's perspective on things. But it's not necessarily giving a super well-rounded view. But it is interesting and well put together because it's all in Stan Lee's voice. They went through decades and decades of interviews and appearances to splice together a chronological telling of Stan Lee's life, which is an impressive piece of work. Okay, it is interesting. But anyway, let me read the response to that documentary by the Jack Kirby Estate. Okay, here, I need some coffee. I'm going to read to you now. The newest Stan Lee documentary is another example of regurgitating falsehoods and repeating long debunked ideas into the creation of these beloved Marvel characters. Jack and Stan were an amazing team whose combined talents ushered in an entire universe of superheroes that have inspired generations. I'd agree with all that. The Jack Kirby Estate has and will continue to ensure that the comic book and pop culture fans understand the importance of Jack in the creation of the Marvel Universe. This continuation to push a challenged narrative hurts the legacy of Stan Lee as well, and continues the disregard towards Jack in the creation of these iconic characters. It truly pains the family to once again have to fight to ensure Jack's legacy and his global contribution to the comics industry. Jack Kirby was more than an artist. He was a visionary and creative force whose contribution to the creation of many Marvel characters goes way beyond putting pencil to paper. Stan Lee will rightfully be remembered as a champion of comic books, creative powerhouse, and figurehead of one of the world's most cherished brands. It is now time for the world to discover the other creative force behind their favorite superheroes. The Jack Kirby Estate invites you to learn more about Jack's version of how these superheroes were created and his inspiration for doing so. Jack loved his fans, and creating for them was not just a job, it was his passion. There are many resources that now add historical facts that are finally changing the one-sided narrative that has been pushed throughout the years. We look forward to one day having a documentary that tells both sides of this amazing story. Until that time, we'll continue to ensure Jack's legacy is protected and find solace in knowing that these co-creations continue to inspire and entertain people around the world. I think that that is a very fair response. Very fair. It does not totally discount Stan. It makes things much more equitable in terms of what we now know. Stan did do some good things for promoting comics. He did do some good things for crediting people, believe it or not. He put credits in his comics, and that's good. But he probably took more credit than he deserved. And at the same time, at the end of the day, Marvel as a company was the one that really benefited. Stan probably deserved to be paid more too, just to be clear. Even though he was the figurehead, and he got money, he didn't get what he was probably deserved. So I don't know. Thank you, Michaela. Always lovely to have you here. The brilliant Michaela Laird. If you want to really learn some deep dives on comics, Michaela has a lovely channel, and she's getting her PhD in some aspect of comics. I don't know how to define that, Michaela. I'm too stupid. Yeah, he did sue Marvel towards the end. But I think that it would be hard to put an exact percentage on who came up with what, between Jack and Stan. But I think it's more than 50% Jack Kirby. I think that that's at least fair to say. That, when it comes to all the Marvel characters, the fact that he has a hand in it, the fact that we can see what Jack did before and after he worked with Stan, and the fact that we can see what Stan did before and after he worked with Jack. Now, their best stuff was probably together, but I think you can also take some time and go no, Jack Kirby was definitely the more creative force there. So do you believe Jack Kirby is telling the truth and that the documentary is wrong? It's not that the documentary is outright wrong, because like I say, it's all from Stan's perspective. We are hearing everything narrated by Stan. And to be fair, the documentary does put in a few elements that challenge Stan's position. Not a ton, but a few, including, I think that the best example that they decided to include was Stan Lee called into a radio show that Jack Kirby was a guest on for his 70th birthday. Stan called in to wish him a happy birthday, and at first it starts very sweet with them saying that they really loved working with each other, that it was a magical time. That's nice to know that they both liked that time. They really did. But then it starts to get into an argument over who deserves more credit. So it's not necessarily about truth or anything. It's just that you're hearing things from a perspective. Yeah, I definitely think it's worth watching. I definitely do. I would just recommend that you read some other books about early Marvel history as well, or at least some videos about Jack Kirby so that you can sort of go in with a different perspective. I think so. I think the truth lies somewhere between the two stories. Marvel would not be where it was without either of them. Exactly right. And I think that the thing is, it's easy to villainize Stan. It really is. The fact is, while they had their disagreements, there are also moments where you can see that they did like each other and they did like working together. They wouldn't have been able to make that many comics if they really thought that the other one was screwing them over. They made hundreds of comics together. So it's weird. It's a very complex story that you need to read a lot of different books, watch a lot of documentaries to sort of form your own idea of what the full truth is. Yeah, I agree that it wasn't quite airbrushing Stan. It didn't quite make him perfect, but it's still a biased documentary. Okay, so that's what I mean by I was like, don't start with this. Don't consider this just like the thing. Anyway, I'm gonna move on, but I thought it was an interesting thing. Oh, hold on, let's see. When I heard about the Stanley documentary, I decided to rewatch the Jack Kirby Lord of Light documentary by Jerk Comic. Good, yeah, I watched some of that. He's a good essayist. Jerk Comic is. I think he's a good essayist. He includes a lot in his stuff. He includes a lot. Moving on. There's going to be a manga price increase for us here in the US on books like these. This comes from ICV2. That's a very business-like website that talks about, statistics and sales with comics. Very, very interesting website. But it is getting deep into the weeds for a lot of readers. But they reported on something that had been noticed by people on Reddit all the way back in May, and that is that Viz Comics coming out in January will have a price increase. Normally, if you get like a single Tankobon volume, and I'm seeing it, do I have one nearby that I could show as an example? I should. Okay, yes, I do. Okay, about this big. These will usually be $9.99, $9, $10 basically for a book like this. It's going up to $11.99 in January, so $12 for this. That is their first price increase in 15 years on this size manga, which is pretty reasonable, of course, as inflation and costs go up. I think that that's fairly reasonable. Comparable prices, they noted from other manga importers, Kodansha, Yen Press, Seven Seas Entertainment, will run for about the same size. $12.99, $13, $12.99, $14.99. I think I missed something in there. Maybe I got an extra 13 somehow. So basically between 13 to $15, and they're going up to 12. So Viz is still the most affordable, and I think that's because they definitely import the most. They do all the Shonen Jump stuff that gets released over here. So they print in pretty big numbers. Whereas, say Seven Seas might have a book like, say, Tokyo Revengers here. But this is still a pretty good price. This one's $23 for basically like 2 Tankobon volumes in one. So that's still a pretty good price, in my opinion. But it is going up. Took them a while. Took them a while to get there. Let's see. As a teen, I could pick up a Tankobon for about £6. But we don't know exchange rates over here. Michaela, what are you doing to us? What are you doing to us? I wonder if it will inflate here too. Probably. Probably in January, your prices will go up. Yeah, it's inflation, and I think that they held off for a really long time, and now they just, inflation The worldwide global inflation in the past year has been quite a lot. So, everything costs more right now. Finance rates cost more, products cost more, everything costs more. Both. The yen is tanking right now. The yen versus the dollar, the American dollar. The American dollar is pretty darn strong. So I'm looking forward to getting some good value when I visit Japan in September. God, that's going to come up pretty soon. I'm so excited. 6 pounds? Damn, that's a heavy book. Michaela, has anyone over there in jolly old England heard that joke about pounds? Can you convert that to freedom bucks? There we go. Oh, somebody from Australia. Lovely to have you here. Anyway. Oh, that's nice. 6 pounds is about $8. I am. I am going to go to Tokyo for a week and Osaka for a week. Roughly. Yeah. I'm the first guy to do that joke. Sure. Yeah, Saga held off for a long time, and they're still less expensive than most comics. But you have to do that stuff sometimes. Still worth sensitizing people, because I'm sure that there are a bunch of you that read at least one or two of these books. I read regularly. I read My Hero Academia and Spy Family. Chainsaw Man, I read somewhat regularly. Demon Slayer, I have a bunch of issues, but I need to sort of catch up. I haven't really read them in a while. I haven't read Jujutsu Kaisen. I know that that's popular, though. Anyway. This week, it turned out people realized that there are multiple versions of Across the Spider-Verse out in movie theaters right now. And as people started realizing this and talking about the differences, like making TikTok videos, YouTube breakdowns, blog posts, just social media in general, Andy Levitin, who is an associate editor on the movie, he tweeted, "I was wondering when people might start noticing." I didn't want to go through listing everything possible because I don't really know exactly, but here's one example. Ben Riley, Scarlet Spider here. He's got versions where he'll say one of two things. In one, he goes, "I've got you trapped in my well-defined musculature." And in another, he goes, "This one's called the sleeper hold," while he's grabbing Miles Morales during that huge, all the Spider-Men chasing Miles. So I don't know which one you think you saw. I'm pretty sure I saw the first one in this. So yeah. There's lots of little differences that they'll have. If you look it up online, you can see lists, you can see video comparisons. Don't know why they did it, but it's a movie about the multiverse and they released slightly different versions. Well, I did do an episode about My Hero Academia quite a while back. I think I did it during one of my visits to Japan too. So I guess I could do it again, but I feel like I sort of covered it for now. Maybe someday, though. Maybe. There's just so many other manga books that I do want to talk about that I haven't yet. Uh, Trying to think. Fist of the North Star, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Tokyo Revengers, Lone Wolf and Cub, Slam Dunk. These are all manga that I'd really love to talk about. Maybe Slam Dunk would be the next one I do, though. I really want to talk to you guys about it. Let's see. I wonder how hard it is to release different versions of the same movie in the same market. I don't think it's hard at all. I think you just sort of allocate it. None of them are like changing the plot or anything substantial. They're just tiny little lines and stuff. Yeah, maybe Devilman. I do love 20th Century Boys because I love Naoki Urasawa. I would definitely consider doing something like Monster. Monster might be more interesting for me. Oh, boy, those are hard. Both Monster and 20th Century Boys are really big stories that would require ugh, I'm just thinking about how hard it's going to be to edit some of this stuff. Like, when you're dealing with like so many volumes of manga, uh, I would I would really benefit from having an editor, but I'd really, really benefit if I could find an editor who also knew how to either scan or download digitally the images of the stuff that I'm talking about, because that's what takes me a lot of time. That's the most time consuming part of my show. It's so brutal. Let's see. There's a new Parco in downtown Osaka now with a Godzilla store, sixth floor. Oh, I love the Parco in Tokyo, so I'll probably visit that. I need an editor so badly, but it's such a big deal to have that trust, you know, because that shapes my show in a lot of ways. It it probably is like something people could like figure out. Maybe I could like edit together just like the takes and just expect them to like sort of do motion graphics and stuff of but I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's really complex wondering like how to do that. It's really, really hard. I've read some of Demon Slayer up through about like volume 3 of the manga. So I haven't read a lot. I haven't read a lot, but I've read some. It's interesting. Um I think that that's one where like the anime is even more popular than the manga. No, I'm not an expert on Mark Crilly. I I've heard the name, but yeah, I'm not an expert. Good workflow with and trust to edit the show. Obviously, that would allow me to focus a lot more on the essay piece of it, the promoting piece of it, and I could honestly probably start to include sponsored ads, which I know wouldn't necessarily excite you, but the fact is that could turn on the money flow for this show. I do not make a ton of money on my show because I turn down almost all the ads. And a big part of why I do it, a lot of them, first of all, I just don't think are great. I don't love a lot of the products, but if you do an ad, you have to like write your own sort of copy and submit it to them for approval, and that takes a day or two for just like a short ad. It takes some time, and I don't have that time because I'm editing up until like releasing stuff. So it's really, but I'll probably do it someday. A manager or someone to assist with your management of a team. Well, then I'm hiring too many people. I don't make enough money to have like a team. I just don't. Yeah. Oh yeah, a lot of people have told me that I should read Kaiju number 8. I do love Kaiju, so we'll see. We'll see. I'll go back to because I actually also have another piece of Across the Spider-Verse news that wasn't as much fun to come across. There was a huge article on the website Vulture where they spoke with a lot of the animators off the record that worked on Across the Spider-Verse, and it sounds like it wasn't a great work environment. It's a brilliant movie. It really is. A lot of animators say that they were forced to do 11-hour workdays, 7 days a week. That's a lot more than like there's such a thing as crunch, but there was some mismanagement that caused them to have to do that much. As many as 100 animators quit during the process of making this movie. And they talk about being forced to redo shots that were supposedly locked, that they were done, that they were asked to like redo up to 5 times. That's not normal. Most times, producers and directors have a pretty clear vision of what they want to do with the movie, and they don't need to make people redo things once they've sort of locked in a final version. And they're always aiming towards that final version of that shot, that scene. Producer Phil Lord was unfortunately singled out as being toxic, and the quote, the word I saw being used that was interesting was forceful. A lot of people said he wasn't fun to work with. And then I hated hearing this. Producer Amy Pascal, she used to be the president of Sony. She's still a producer on the Spider-Man movies. And she responded to these complaints saying, like, I guess welcome to making a movie. It's like, no, not every movie is like that. I know sometimes things like that, but that isn't normal. By the way, um, they said that this was actually like, like they were so behind and redoing stuff that a lot of quotes are saying they haven't even started on the third movie in the series, so that there's like no chance it's coming out next year. They're gonna be pushing that back. I was very disappointed because I've always loved the Lord and Miller creative team. Uh, I remember watching Clone High back in the day. I loved other shows that they've made, like Last Man on Earth. I like the 21 Jump Street movies. I like their Spider-Verse movies, their Lego movies. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs was surprisingly good. But yeah, and it's really disappointing to hear about this. Oh, well, this is an informed point of view. So, I work in film for a living. Not all movies are like this, just ones with horrible leadership. And that's sort of what the people that were like being talked to sort of intimated, that like not every movie is like that. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. It's really upsetting. EJ, lovely to have you here. I think you're still in Taiwan, right? EJ has a gallery show, an art gallery show in Taiwan right now. So I don't know if any other viewers here are in Taiwan, but if so, check out EJ's art gallery. I think that's amazing. 11 hours, 7 days a week. Sounds like my normal schedule, but I wouldn't even imagine forcing people to do that kind of schedule. It's too much. It's burnout. People can't do that. People can't do that. I'll be honest. I also kind of work hours like that for my YouTube show, combined with the fact that I still have my part-time job. Like, I work all 7 days. I do not give myself a day off. But it is a choice. I work in film and I work 12 hours, 5 days a week. That's still a lot of hours, but at least you hopefully get some days off to mentally decompress. I think people need that, and I wish I had that, but I don't. But that's right now the choice that I'm making to sort of do my. At least I'm doing it for myself. I'm not putting that on somebody else. But it was disappointing to hear this because I love this movie, and I want another one, but I also don't want people to be abused to make it. Mm. That's when we get those 4:30 a.m. comic tropes debuts. Yep. Yep, because I just finished editing and I want it out. I am watching my health, Rebel. Thanks for caring. I think I'm taking pretty good care of myself. I probably overwork, but whatever. Do I think it will come out in 2025? Maybe. Not 2024, 2025. I'd like to rest, but then like YouTube doesn't really reward that. But I'll probably take some time off of when I go to Japan in September, to be honest. I'll probably like not produce a comic tropes, but maybe I'll do some live streams at the end of the day over there, something like that. I'll try to potentially still do this show, but we'll see. That's sort of up in the air, and depending on how many things I've got to do and when I can be at the hotel and when that lines up close to this time. So it's a little weird, but I might still be able to do it. I'd like to for fun. I think it would be fun if I can, but we'll see. What does this mean for Beyond the Spider-Verse as a whole? Nothing definitive, just that it'll probably come out later than expected. This was fun. Let's talk about something fun. Skybound throughout the week slowly revealed one new character from the Autobot team that will be the stars of Daniel Warren Johnson's upcoming Transformers book that's being published through Skybound Image. Like each one was blacked out, and each day of the week they revealed one. And this week they're doing it with Decepticons. So next week I'll come back and I'll tell you who the main Decepticons will be. But got Optimus Prime, of course. And then the rest are a little bit of a surprise. RC, interesting choice. Ratchet, okay. Wheeljack. I always liked Wheeljack. He's an inventor, turns into a sports car. I like that. And then Cliffjumper, not Bumblebee, Cliffjumper. This is going to be the main cast of characters. Not to say the others don't exist or anything, but this will be apparently the main cast that Daniel Warren Johnson is going to use. And so I went ahead and watched. Daniel Warren Johnson does almost always a live stream on Fridays where he'll draw and talk about whatever's going on. He has to keep some secrets, of course, but he finally, could talk about some of the Transformers things. And he said that he had to do this promotional artwork all the way back around, say, like October or something. And he was still sort of figuring out how to draw them. It was still sort of new to him at this point. He said that he had to learn some interesting things about how to handle Transformer anatomy. And I'll give you a specific thing. So, like, if you look at the toy, I don't have a toy handy, but say like a Transformer arm here, right? You've got like a block, and then like this rectangular block for the forearm. This is like the bicep. There's really no elbow joint here. It's like hidden inside this. Like, we have like this elbow, but for a robot, it like cuts off here and here. And it's like just sort of looks like it's almost floating. And at first he was trying to sort of like add in a rounded joint and stuff, and he realized it just never looked right. So he just drew it the way that the toys are. And even though it doesn't look like it connects like regular anatomy, it looks right. It looks right to us. So that took some getting used to. He also said that because this is a licensed book that gets approvals, he had to send back in the Autobot symbol. Like he had to redo those several times to get Hasbro happy with what he drew. And actually, now that I look at this, I wonder if he like sort of like had tried to like redo this one and it just sort of turned into schmutz. I don't know. He also had a funny thing he did where he showed the variant cover to Void Rivals that features Jetfire. And he was like, I was very happy with that Autobot symbol. And then they told me, you have to take the symbol off of that because Jetfire hasn't picked a side yet. So he doesn't have an Autobot symbol on his chest after he finally got one right. Oh, yeah, it's still going on, Wayne. It's still going on. No Cosmos for the Autobots, at least not yet. He also said that his point of reference for getting this stuff right was looking at the 1986 movie and basically the cartoon, but like the 86 movie was, the best overall animation with models that were consistent and stuff. So that was that, maybe that's going back in time. He said, there've been other takes on Transformers, but that's what he grew up with. That's what he likes, the look of and everything. And that's what he's going with. And I have to admit, that's also what I love a lot because that's what I grew up with. But I think that this is an interesting team that should have some, different dynamics than what I was expecting. I'm used to seeing Bumblebee and Ironhide on a team, not necessarily tons of emphasis on Cliffjumper or RC. So, cool. Let's see what he does with it. I'm sure he's got his reasons. Yeah, I recommend watching the last Friday D-Dubs, drawing Friday with D-Dubs. Let's see. I can imagine Hasbro is very picky on some particular things. Well, you would know EJ has drawn many Transformers comics, including the last IDW comics, the last bought. Yeah. So I love that Daniel Warren Johnson is finally doing a Transformers book. I know how much he loves it, so that makes me happy for him. Yeah. It should be a lot of fun. It should be a lot of fun. I am a guy, I grew up at the right time that initially the thing that I was most passionate about in terms of sort of toys and a cartoon as a kid was Transformers. And it quickly led to G.I. Joe. And I think my G.I. Joe love has grown as I've been an adult and Transformers has diminished. I don't really collect Transformers. To be clear, I've sold off all my childhood Transformers and G.I. Joe at a certain point. And I'm okay with that because, I wanted to declutter my life. But I do still have a legit nostalgic love for the Transformers. And I haven't been excited about Transformers like this in quite a while. I've read some cool comics. I've seen some cool toys, but I am excited. I am excited because it's a very different type of artist than I was expecting for it. We'll see. I don't know how many of you necessarily know about The Beginning After the End, but it is a very popular webcomic, and you can buy it in book format at places like Barnes and Noble and stuff. So it's called The Beginning After the End, and the artist has announced this week that they are leaving over quote unquote unfair pay. Now they use like screen names, but Fuyuki23 has provided the illustrations for Turtle Me's popular online web novel. That's what they call it, but it's a web comic, webtoon, ending their collaboration with the work's author. On Instagram, the artist said, "The platform that paid us," and this is my note, it's on Tapas, "suddenly wants to change the payment structure, which we believe is no longer fair and makes us feel undervalued." If you haven't seen it, it's a sword and sorcery / martial arts sort of story. This king is reincarnated. This thing, give you an idea of how big this is, okay? 444,000 subscribers, almost as many as me. Over 27 million views. That's really impressive. Actually, you know what? I joke about that, and I'm not that far off. I mean, I'm like 50% of this, but that's still not bad. That's not bad. Yeah. So, oh, sorry, I just got distracted because there's a spider crawling along the wall here, and spiders freak me out. I'm just gonna let it do its thing. Yeah, yeah. Unless my wife was here to save me, I don't mess around with spiders. Duh, they just move so fast. I know that they're not really dangerous. It just moves too fast for me. I'm distracted by the little spider. He's moving away from me. He's moving away. Yeah. No, it isn't a Black Widow. I know it won't hurt me. That's why I'm not like crushing it or grabbing it or anything like that. It'll get rid of like if I've got any small bugs down here. So I'm gonna let it do its thing. I don't have a house covered in spider webs, so I think I can allow one, two. Yes, everybody, I got it. Like radioactive spider blood. Yes, I'll blast it with some radiation and see if it gives me powers. By the way, nice to see you, Jeannie. That's my sister there. Lovely, lovely to have you here. Want me to come save you? That's my wife. No, he's sort of moved on. I'm giving it the he pronouns because it looks like a boy to me. I'm just gonna let it do its thing. I'm gonna let it go away. Where did I leave off? Let's see. Here's a comment. Webtoons and Tapas are both awful. Global Comics and Hiveworks is supposed to be more indie friendly, but I don't know. Well, those are kind of different things, though, aren't they? Like just because Global Comics is more of like a reader, whereas Webtoons and Tapas is like a destination for vertically scrolling comics. You've been there the whole time. I'm sorry. My wife and kids always want me to smash spiders. I always just catch and release it in the yard. When I do deal with bugs, I also tend to catch and release as compared to smash. I maybe that makes me a wimp. I don't know. I don't. If I don't need to, I don't kill a bug. I'll just, if I don't need to, it goes outside. Anyway, huge audience on this book. Like I said, I was at Barnes and Noble today briefly, and I saw tons of these books there. So I know that it's got a pretty big audience, and I don't know why you change the terms such that you alienate the artist. I think it also looks pretty good. The art, it looks a lot like you're grabbing cells out of an animation. And to be clear, Fuyuki23 uses assistants. It's basically like a small studio that does the art. Anyway, just kind of sad. I will let you know if I need to be saved. Thank you. I think I'm good, though. I think I'm good. When the spiders take over, they will spare me. Thank God. But I'll be terrified. I'll be terrified. Let's see. We got offering for incipient, I need an editor bucket, lukewarm take. Secret Invasion was joyless. Political intrigue not working since Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier is pretty fantastic. That's interesting. Maybe it is joyless. But it's also just one episode so far, so I don't know. I don't disagree with you, but thank you very much for the super chat and the opinion. I do appreciate it. My doctoral supervisor is one of the founding figures behind Infinite Scrolling Comics. It's really fascinating to see how it's grown since his writing in the 90s. It's very popular. Very popular. Very, very popular. I don't know if it's the future for comics, but it's certainly a big part of the future of comics. There's no getting around that. That is a way a lot of people read and enjoy their comics now. So let's talk about what I have in the thumbnail there, which is, oh no, is San Diego Comic-Con doomed? That was the title on, and I'm going to guess at which places I read this, but probably like Variety or The Hollywood Reporter, Vulture, at least one of those three did this, maybe all three. And there is a little bit of truth to this. The fact is, a lot of Hollywood studios have a big presence at San Diego Comic-Con. They will show whatever sort of genre movies they've got. They'll show like the actors, or they'll show a trailer for the first time, etc. You know, it's a venue where they can get their audience. Ever since COVID, a lot of them have not appeared at the big conventions. Here are some examples of people that have pulled out: Disney, Sony, Universal, and Netflix. They've all pulled out of San Diego Comic-Con. By this week, all of those had pulled out. That means that Marvel won't do sort of a Hall H. That's their biggest hall, their biggest, what do you call that? Panel, their biggest panel room. They're not going to do a Hall H presentation this year. A lot of this is probably affected specifically by the fact that right now there's a writer's strike. Because there's a writer's strike, the actors are almost all trying to be supportive of that by not promoting projects until there's a new deal on the table for the Writers Guild. So if Kevin Feige took to Hall H, you know, he's not going to be able to be like, ladies and gentlemen, Tom Hiddleston as Loki. And he comes out in like his cosplay and is like, no, because that's my impression of Tom Hiddleston, I guess. But you know what I'm saying? Like they're not going to get the sort of fun big guests right now because they're just all trying to strike and get a good deal. Some of the places that have not announced they've pulled out, by the way, though, there's still some big names: Warner Brothers, Amazon, Max, that's, you know, the streaming part of HBO, and Paramount. They're all planning on attending. I'm trying to remember what all their things are to promote, but, you know, Warner Brothers has some sort of DC stuff. Paramount has the new Ninja Turtles movie. These are animated things, so they can like sort of talk about that a little more easily without having to bring out a big name, you know, A-list celebrity. And look, guess what? This happens pretty much every year, even before COVID. Every year, they would say things like, every year there are trade publications and industry sources going like, you know, I think that this year San Diego Comic-Con may have reached a tipping point, that interest is going to fall off now. Or, Chris Evans said he's not going to Comic-Con, so, you know, it might be smaller next year. They say this stuff every year. Every year that there's an article like this. But guess what? Comic-Con sells out its tickets within minutes of going on sale. They still do. Their vendor space for like the booths, that still sells out like that. I don't think that some people do love the Hollywood stuff. Okay. I'm not a huge guy for going to panels in general. I wouldn't care. I would still have a blast at San Diego Comic-Con. This would not affect how much I was able to enjoy the Comic-Con at all. I'd still be seeing the cosplay. I'd still be rifling through the back issue bins looking for interesting stuff to talk about on my show. I'd still be meeting the professionals and talking to them and stuff. That's what I would do. I'd meet friends that I only get to see there. So, oh no, Comic-Con might have to focus on comic books more. Oh no, like the world is falling apart there. Like, what's the big deal? I don't think it's even people complaining so much as like these industry things, these industry sites. They act like it's such a big deal not to have Hollywood, but it's like, why do comic books crave such mainstream acceptance with the movies? The movies can be fun, but who cares? It is a comic convention. And yeah, I know my cat's howling. I know that there's nothing wrong with them, but that's something you start to get used to with Bengal cats. They can be loud sometimes. Sometimes they just meow back and forth to each other. They just talk. They're not. There's nothing wrong with them. I know when there is. It's a different howl. Yeah, Comic-Con for comics. Who cares? Who cares? Yeah, they have tons of comic creators coming. There's tons. Thank you for staying up so late, Michaela. Very kind of you to jump. Yeah, meeting creators is also my favorite part of the con. So like it wouldn't affect anything. Like this would change zero for me if I were to attend it this year as compared to like 10 years ago. I would do the same exact stuff. This wouldn't affect my personal enjoyment. I think that it's not a big deal for Hollywood to not be there. That probably is a draw for some people. It probably is. Okay. I get that. It's not for me, and I don't think it's that big a deal because it still sells out like that. Let's see what happens next year. But if I had to guess, it's still going to sell out all of its tickets within a few minutes. I'm going to guess it's not a big deal. We'll see. We'll see. And just to be clear, though, in terms of like big publishers or studios and stuff showing up, that is now a problem, not just for San Diego Comic-Con. That is for any convention. E3 didn't have like any video game publishers want to go this year. They just didn't. If I go to my local Emerald City Comic-Con, almost all the publishers used to be there. Now we don't even get, say, Image or Dark Horse, who are basically in my backyard. They're local. They just don't feel the need to go anymore. I don't think it affects sales. Like, it is fun to see those big booths, but I don't think it affects the publishers too much. So I don't know. Yep, Peach Momoko is going to cons, and she will actually be at the San Diego Comic-Con. This is going to be, I think, her first visit ever to the San Diego Comic-Con. So that will be a huge line. Trust me, that will be a huge, huge line. She is ridiculously popular. So popular. So popular. By law, all big studio projects should be solely presented and discussed by Alan Moore by himself in order to appear at cons. Yes, I think that Alan Moore having to talk up Doctor Strange 3 would definitely go over very well. So we shall see what happens. We shall see. But my take, they put out somewhat similar articles every year saying like, hey, I don't think Comic-Con is going to be as big next year. Comic-Con is still huge. And it's probably just going to be an adjustment period as we figure out how to scale properly and get the right guests. We being people that love comics and stuff. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. There's a big take, huh? We'll see what happens. This is why you tune in for the big takes. Oh, we'll see what happens. Yeah, no shit, Chris. Let's see. The last Motor City Comic-Con I was able to attend was before any of the big movies. Besides the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, the draw was the guest stars and the wrestlers. Oh, interesting. Interesting. This is kind of fun. This is also related a little bit to the San Diego Comic-Con. So this guy is Robert Garcia. And if you live in California, you probably know that. He is a freshman congressman who is also a huge fan of comic books. He got sworn in on the you can get sworn in on any book you want. A lot of people have traditionally done the Bible, but you don't have to. He got sworn in on a copy of the Constitution as well as Superman issue 1. And he's talked about how much like he loves being able to use the Library of Congress. There's a special sitting room that congressmen have access to. And so he can pull out Superman #1, Detective Comics #27. You can like basically just check that stuff out. Like the Library of Congress keeps a copy of all this stuff going like way, way back, including all sorts of comics. And he's a huge comics fan and he takes advantage of it and reads original comics of this stuff. He tweeted something about the Comic-Con. He said, 1 month from now at San Diego Comic-Con, we are launching the first ever Congressional Popular Arts Caucus. It will be a bipartisan caucus focused on the comics industry, gaming, and popular entertainment media. Stay tuned and see you there. He followed up with a little more explanation of what the point of this is. Congress has an enormous role to play around creative rights, fair labor, intellectual property, global piracy, and the future of AI in the industry. I've met Congress members who are ready to work and uplift this critical economic industry. We look forward to your input. Cool. He's getting people on both sides of the aisle to make sure that they are coming up with modern regulations and laws that benefit the creative people. I think that that is really, really cool. I think that that's just awesome. He used to be my mayor in Long Beach. Ran into him at 2 shops here a few times. So he's a legit comics fan. Thanks for sharing, Al. I appreciate that. Shrek is in the Library of Congress. Yeah, you could swear in on that. Now he gets to go to Comic-Con for free. I don't know. He might be eligible for like a pro badge at a discount, but I don't know if he gets in for free. I don't think he's a guest there. He's just going to like meet like with some other congressmen and he's going. So anyway, if he wants to establish some credibility, he can talk about Wally Wood's Thunder Agents. Wally Wood was so good. So good. Well, we will see what happens. I wish him success in getting something accomplished, and certainly an area that would be of interest to a lot of us. We've got more news. And then I've got some comics I really want to talk about. Oh, I wanted to plug this. So a new show debuted on YouTube that I think could be of interest to a bunch of you. Lettering stuff. So Nate Picos is he's a comics letterer. He's the creator of Blambot Fonts. And he launched a new show on the Blambot YouTube channel. He's had that for a while, but he launched a new shoe. Yeah, he partnered with Adidas to launch a new lettering show. The show is called Lettering Live, okay? And it's on Blambot. So you could just look up Blambot and you'd find it. Lettering Live discusses lettering, and he basically shows how he lettered the most recent issue of I Hate Fairyland. He explains the techniques he's doing. He's got sped up video, but he shows like his actual techniques using Adobe Illustrator. If anybody here has ever had interest in lettering, I think that there's a lot to learn from it. And I think the show moves at a good pace. I like lettering. I think that that's really cool. I'm excited for the comic lettering. Good. Yeah. A shoe in the shape of a letter. Okay. All right. You know what? So I stuttered. I stuttered. That's a great suggestion. I had to learn lettering from a book, so that would be a good watch. I think a lot of people would enjoy it, and it's a real skill. It's a real skill. Air Kleins. I'm sure you have, Daniel. You've worked with a lot of great people. Yeah, that's awesome. You never learned the alphabet, yet you seem to be able to speak English and type it out pretty well. That's interesting. Anyway, I wanted to share that because I think that there's a lot to learn, and good lettering is an art. People can really ruin a comic book with some bad lettering that covers up the art, is inconsistent. There's some really awkward mistakes that you can make with lettering. Good lettering is sometimes a little bit invisible, but there's some really interesting stuff. There's some really interesting stuff. Let's see. Lettered in issue and could use all the tips I can get. Having lettered a bunch of stuff, I love this stuff. I love learning from it. Lettering is a major gap in my comics making. Well, I think Nate Picos is definitely one of the best you can learn from. So hopefully you get something out of that. Like I say, look up Blambot on YouTube, and the latest show that he's got is called Lettering Live. And if it does well, I think he plans to do more. Global Comics. That's one of the newer online, or not online, but really more like a digital reader for comics. It's a digital platform. They've announced fairly recently, like partnering with Archie, Boom, Image, a lot of publishers. As the people like quickly, peace out from Comixology, which is basically just a ghost now. I thought it was interesting here. They had a recent SEC filing, and they revealed that they had raised $5 million recently, total of $6.5 million towards getting this platform up and running. One of the founders is a guy named Christopher Carter. He told Comics Beat, that's where I pulled this news from, he had this quote: "Our intent with fundraising is to be able to hire staff support and have the right resources and partnerships in place to deliver on all the promises that we've made. We want to put the resources behind the app to spread awareness, drive reader acquisition, and get to the consumer side that both creators and we need." Cool. Seems like a lot of money, but it makes sense. Am I taking a break from inking? Well, I've never inked professionally. I just enjoy doing that. I'll have to do a live stream soon where I draw something. I will have to do that. Lettering is one of those things that you don't think about, but if it's not done well, you notice right away. It's the truth. It's definitely the truth. I'm almost done with the news. I'm going to talk about some really amazing comics shortly. This is the only show I hit like every week before it starts. Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. Current likes only 50% of us enjoying this live. I'll live, but hey, I do appreciate it if you can hit like. It helps the show, okay? Two more pieces of news. This is creator, Kohei Horikoshi. He is the writer and artist of My Hero Academia, which has been absent from Shonen Jump recently, and he posted why. It was health reasons. Boy, this seems to crop up a lot with manga creators. The pressure on them to produce is crazy. He said, this is so weird. Fluid kept coming from my ears, but now it finally stopped. My ears were at the brink of death. That was close. What? It sounds like he worked so much his brain was leaking out. Darn. They just keep leaking. I don't know what he's talking about specifically was wrong with him, but this was happening enough that he had to take a hiatus. So that does not sound good. I don't know if there's any doctors or nurses in the audience that could help explain that. I have never heard of that, but I think you've probably been working too much if your ears just won't stop leaking. That is crazy. Yeah, that was my reaction. I have no idea what that is. I have no idea. I guess an ear infection, right? Bro worked so hard, his ears started liquefying. Or what's behind the ears? There's so many manga that I love, and I love how affordable things like Shonen Jump are and how much value you get. But there's probably and there's just too much pressure. There's just too much pressure on them to produce too many pages. They need to do something more like, say, 6 pages a week instead of 11 or 12. I don't know. It's just crazy. Juicy ears? Okay, I didn't think about that, but that actually makes sense. He probably does have juicy ears. I was trying to convince Chris to draw Venom hot wiring Archie's car with Archie and Jughead shaking their fists. Oh, I've heard that rumor too, Gantris, but I haven't heard him actually give a quote that says that he's coming back, so I haven't really been able to report on it as news. If he says something specific, hopefully he does come back, though. Hopefully he does. Let me give one last piece of news, and then I want to talk about some great comics that came out this week. reading manga in Japan's bookstores is allowed again. Allowed? Yeah. So specifically, there is a term for this in Japan. It's called tachiyomi. Tachiyomi means reading while standing. And a lot of people will go into this is an actual shot from a book off, which is a chain of used manga. And also, like, they'll have like used DVDs and video games, but like really good quality, really good prices. I love going to the book off chains. They have them here in America. They're nowhere near as good. They're nowhere close. Like if you've been to a book off in like New York, don't assume that that's what it's like in Japan. It's way more affordable with way cooler stuff in Japan. But book off banned this practice of tachiyomi during COVID, which is understandable, right? Like people stand close, they stay longer. Um, and people do this because they want to see, like, hey, is this book right for me? They might just read the first chapter or something like that. The stores are big. They're really, really big. I love them. But at a press conference in Tokyo this week, the book off president announced, and I have part of his quote here. We had been operating under the idea that we didn't want our stores to be only a place where people could feel comfortable visiting and spending time in. However, during the coronavirus, we had no choice but to ask shoppers to refrain from tachiyomi. Now, though, and I'm leaving a little bit out, we have decided the timing is right to end our ban on tachiyomi. So now you can, again, read it a little bit. Yeah, it was basically a public thing. Reading it aloud is now allowed. I don't know. Actually, they probably would not appreciate that. I almost asked him to draw me something on his live stream when it was my birthday, but I didn't want to take advantage of being his sister. Oh, well, we'll see. I have been to book offs in Tokyo. Oh, yeah, there's a lot of them. There's some good stuff to be found there. Sometimes like action figures and stuff. It's, yeah, there's other places I will go, but it is kind of fun to explore. It is fun. That said, mostly the manga there is, of course, in Japanese. Which I would prefer to get it in English, but yeah, it's a fun store. It's a fun store. Do the birthday stream. Well, Jean's birthday already happened at the beginning of this month, so you can wish her a belated birthday. I've got mine coming up in basically just over a month. Let's add something here and remove something here and change this up. And I'm going to talk about some of the comics that came out this week. Show you whether I've got a recommendation or not. It's not specifically like they would ban you looking at a page or two. They don't want you standing there for a while. It's more of it's a Japanese thing in used bookstores. They don't want you touching lots of stuff and putting it back on the shelf, but it is kind of normal to like read a little bit of a manga if it's used to decide if you want to buy it or not. And they just wanted people to sort of like cycle through a little faster and not just hang out. So we've got Ultimate Invasion. As in, is the Ultimate Universe coming back? Yes, but really, no. But really, yes. It's got beautiful art, of course, by Bryan Hitch. Well, if you like that style. And I do like very realistic art. It's got some guys with high-tech stuff, and their heist is to save a person. Who? This is the Reed Richards of the Ultimate Universe, who actually became a villain. He's in the main universe. He's known as Maker now. Just as smart as Reed Richards, but he's evil. He's actually, I think, a pretty good addition to Marvel Comics as a villain. And he's got a specific mission here where he wants to bring back, potentially, his world, which in Secret Wars, the Ultimate Universe ended. And only 2 people from that universe made it over to the main Marvel universe and remember what happened. Maker is one, Miles Morales is the other. The Illuminati is reconvened. Professor X, Mr. Fantastic, Black Panther, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Namor the Submariner, Black Bolt. This is a big threat, and they know that Maker is stealing technology from each of their kingdoms or magic items. Maker offers Miles Morales an opportunity to go back to the Ultimate Universe that they created. But are they creating the the Ultimate Universe? Well, no, because that did end. What's this? 6160. That's this sort of new universe. The Ultimate Universe was 1610, I think, or 1616. What was it? I think it was 1610. No, yeah, it was 1610 was the Ultimate Universe. 616 was the Marvel Universe, or still is. This new universe is technically classified as 6160. So it's a new universe. There has been a little bit of stuff. Kevin is correct here that 1610 did come back in Venom with Maker. Yeah. But now he wants to go there and stuff. Was this $9? Oh yeah, it is $9. Okay, so a lot of nothing. I thought it was pretty fun. I like the art. I like seeing the Illuminati come back for a pretty good reason. I mean, Reed Richards, like an evil Reed Richards, that's a big threat. And they've got an interesting wraparound cover. It's probably not for everybody, but basically Marvel is going to bring back a version of the Ultimate Universe, but it's a good idea. So they're bringing it back, but they're starting it fresh. So you don't have to have read any sort of Marvel comics before. This is going to be a new jumping on point, showcasing what if these Marvel characters came about today. And I think that there would be a lot of changes. I think that the Ultimate Universe was a good idea, and got about 10 years before it sort of outlived its usefulness, because the point was to get a new reader be able to jump on, understand things in today's context. I do think that the Ultimate Spider-Man run was pretty darn good, but we'll see. Let's see. I really hate there's an Illuminati in the Marvel Universe. I hate when writers take anti-Semitic conspiracy theories from the real world and appropriate them into different concepts. So the name you don't care for, I guess I could understand that. I could understand. But they're using it as a pop culture. Hold on, there's a question I was trying to see. Okay. Did the Ultimate Universe end through the use of the Ultimate Nullifier? No. It's more complex than that. Over the course of 2 years worth of 2 different Avengers stories, Jonathan Hickman built this up. There were omnipotent beings known as Beyonders that were collapsing entire universes. They pushed them together. That was known as an incursion. Either one or neither universe would survive. The Avengers knew this was coming, and they had to make decisions on how to protect their world. What are the moral implications? Can you be okay with ending an entire universe to protect your own? Is that moral? Can you save everybody? It was an interesting series of moral decisions more than anything else. Let's see. This can go to the New Comics Fund. I'm a big fan of the weekly reviews. Thank you so much. I appreciate that very, very much. They don't necessarily do a lot. Look, the only thing they really do originally was they shot Hulk into space. But that did result in us getting some really great Hulk stories with Planet Hulk and World War Hulk. I like those. Speaking of Hulk, Hulk has a new run. The Donny Cates run kind of fell apart a little bit. I think Ryan Ottley did a good job managing it when Donny walked away, but this acknowledges that happened, but is more of a direct follow-up to things that happened in the well-regarded Immortal Hulk run. It's written by Phillip Kennedy Johnson, who's gotten a lot of acclaim with his Superman stuff lately. Nick Klein is definitely an artist that fans are really gravitating towards. The bad guys in this are monsters. And why are there so many monsters coming around at this time? It's because of something that happened in that Immortal Hulk era where they closed what's called the Green Door. The Green Door was like this sort of supernatural thing that let any gamma-powered being come back from death. Literally come back. I might use these Ultimate and Hulk books to start collecting Marvel monthly titles again. Fair. So there's all these like cool monsters that are debuting, and they're summoning something called the Mother of all monsters, and they want to get Hulk for some reason. I don't know why, but we're dealing with sort of the classic thing of Bruce Banner on the run, stopping at diners, getting small jobs, dealing with a Hulk that he can't really control. So it's a reset, but it's building on some of the past history as well. Thank you, Michael. I'm doing all right mentally and physically. All right. Shoulders still bothering me a little here and there if I do a lot of work, but overall pretty darn good. Thank you so much for the support. It means a lot to me. I really do appreciate that. Anyway, what it's ultimately building up to is well, there's also, just to be clear, there's a girl who's got like an abusive family and stuff, and she's like really smart, but she like goes on the run to avoid the abuse, and she wants to get strong enough to fight back. So she's kind of dealing with some of the similar stuff to what the Hulk is dealing with. And we've just got all sorts of cool new monsters, and the Hulk is going to be back to fighting monsters. The Hulk is a monster, but the Hulk fights bigger monsters than him. So I'm curious to see where this goes. I'm very curious to see where it goes. I think it looks pretty good, and I think it will give us a new angle that we haven't seen before. There's a hint that the Mother of Monsters is summoning existing monsters to go up against the Hulk, like creatures from the Mole Man's domain, Man-Thing, Ghost Rider. We're going to see Hulk fight all sorts of monsters. That sounds cool. Hulk is Hellboy? Well, he's not exactly investigating that stuff, but yeah, maybe. Bruce Banner is looking pretty rough these days. He's looking pretty rough. So. Oh, really? I didn't know that there was a surgery for frozen shoulder. I just got, what do you call it? A ton of shots of corticosteroids in the shoulder that seems to have helped. But if there's a surgery, I would have taken that. I want some relief. It hurt. My sympathies to you. It's like one of the most painful things I can imagine. Anyway, pretty interesting. I've said many times that Saga is great, and we're at issue 65. So I don't want to recap everything that's happened. If you haven't read it, again, I recommend picking up. There's an omnibus of the first 50 issues for a very affordable price. The comic itself is $3.99, which these days is about $1 less than most comics. But what this one features is, it's just so epic how many characters are in this. And I won't show you who, but one of the characters in this dies. And it's probably not who you're expecting if you're not reading it. And if you are reading it, I'm sure you were as surprised as I was. I'm going to stop before I reveal it. But I haven't shown yet. But yeah, a character dies, and it's tragic. And what it shows is, like, in the world of Saga, there is an intergalactic war going on between two races, and they because it's been going on for so long, just so long, they wrap other alien civilizations up into it, and the main characters are just trying to find a way to sort of stay off the radar. They're getting hunted down. They're just trying to stay off the radar and get small jobs. In this one, Alana, the mother of main character Hazel, gets a job working at a circus, a traveling circus, which makes sense. But oh my God, it's this really shows the cost of a war, which is unexpected deaths of the people in the middle. Unexpected deaths of people that, that's what happens when there's war, is innocent people that are not actively involved in the war get hurt. And that's what this issue shows. And it was a surprise, and it's really cool. It just keeps surprising me. It looks great. It's very unique. Fiona Staples is a very unique artist who I really like her work a lot. I really do. I'm trying to see if there's maybe one shot I could show you that's unique or something like that. I don't know. This one's a lot of action-packed stuff and not as much sort of pausing to talk. lots of aliens are based on sort of existing animals. But I do recommend this super strongly. In fact, so far, this is how I'd rank the books that came out this week, and I enjoyed all of these, but Saga is definitely at the top. I picked up Wonder Woman 800 because I hadn't read Wonder Woman in a while. Sort of wanted to see where she was at. But this is sort of an anthology talking about all sorts of supporting characters, mostly the various people that have been Wonder Girl. It was interesting enough. It introduces the best stuff is like sort of at the end. Honestly, the best stuff is at the end where they introduce for the first time Trinity, her daughter in the future, who is friends in this future world with the Damian Wayne Batman and the John Kent Superman, and they all think of themselves as like basically brothers and sister. So that it's a different relationship than Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman has always been like a triumvirate, but I kind of love this idea of them in the future being the next generation and that they consider themselves brother and sister more than anything else because they really grew up together. Specifically, this hints at the fact that or not hints, it like outright says that when John and Damian were younger, they had to babysit young Trinity and weren't always doing a great job at it. But it's cool. It's really cool, and it's going to sort of tell a story of something that happened in their past, which is going to be the current day. That's going to force Wonder Woman to go on the run. I picked up the latest Superman by Joshua Williamson, which is kind of cool. Basically, Jimmy Olsen has fallen in love with Silver Banshee, and she's trying to reform. But there's some new villains that want to kill both Superman and Lex Luthor. This one also features a surprise death, but I'm not going to get too into it. It's fine. Both of these are they're fine. It's hard for me to get super excited about some of this superhero stuff, but it's not bad. I don't have anything to say like that this was a disaster. It's fine. Final issue 3 of The Giant Coke Jew. But you know what? This one's funny. Okay. It's by Jerry Duggan, but it's only funny if you really like bodily fluid type jokes, potty humor. It's essentially a parody of Godzilla and giant kaiju versus mechs. So I'll sort of just show that much maybe. And there's most of this I really can't show you. Yeah, I can't show you, but it is pretty funny. Larry, thank you. Chris and fellow Tropers, about to play a metal show with my band Cleric. Looking forward to catching the replay. Much love, everyone. Keep reading comics. Well, I hope you really shred tonight. Hope you shred. It's funny is all I can say. I'm going to be quick. I don't pick up every issue of Nightwing, but I do think I'll probably have to go back and read the Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo run in trade paperback, because every once in a while I pick it up for something that Bruno Redondo is doing art-wise, and I'm really impressed with the story and the characters. What he does in this one is the entire issue, every panel is from Nightwing's point of view. You are put in his eyes for the entire thing. It's immersive in a very different way. It's going from him like sort of waking up and like the dog licking him and stuff, getting ready in front of the mirror in the bathroom and going on an adventure, costuming up, swinging through the city. It's all from his point of view. All the action scenes, that's tricky because think about it. You're not getting to see all the time the reactions of the main character, right? The only stuff you're seeing for the most part are a few reflections, and Bruno Redondo's clever about bringing those in every once in a while to remind you about the main character, and then whatever he does with his hands, but a lot of this is action scenes. So it means that a lot of the emotional reactions have to be done by the other characters, the Batgirl, various villains, various people like, on the like bystanders and stuff like that. But it's all done from one perspective. It's so clever in I don't know, the chaos of being in like a huge explosion, the chaos, but each shot does look good. Yeah, if you want to see something impressive. Oh, here. This is fun, okay? At one point, he's running through an office in a skyscraper. And I don't know if you can tell by looking at this, but we've got who? We've got Dwight and Kelly Kapoor and Jim. We've got Creed. Who is this lady? I can't remember her name right now. We've got Meredith and Angela and Stanley and Michael. Ryan Howard. Yeah, so we've got all sorts of office characters snuck into the background. Phyllis. Thank you, Jeannie. Phyllis. Isn't that fun? And look at how little. He's like only drawing like a tiny bit of a face here, and sometimes even less, but I could tell who they were. I'm like, yeah, that's Stanley. It's so funny. I totally missed that. Says Brzinga. I've missed things too. This is what I'm saying. Like, Bruno Redondo is putting a lot of thought into what he's trying to do storytelling wise. A lot of thought. First person perspective on motorcycle, like going through a parking garage. I mean, just all sorts of interesting shots. Fight scenes. Conversations. And like I say, every once in a while he finds a mirror or reflective surface to like sort of put Nightwing in the background. Yep, that was Rashida Jones, her character from The Office. So it's just for fun, that was just for fun. But I like that he finds ways to put Nightwing in like the reflection, or that he's like doing something like this. Look, Nightwing's having a glass of water, and think about like the decisions that would have gone into making like, this warped perspective of the people. But that keeps it visually interesting instead of just having like 3 shots like this, right? Like that would be a little potentially boring since it's the same, it's got to be the same shot. So he does something like this to vary it up. Anyway. I can't think off the top of my head, Chad, about an entire comic done from the perspective of the main character. I'm sure that there are examples of panels where we're basically seeing things from the perspective, the point of view of a character, but an entire book like this, I can't think of anything like it. Very creative. And this is after I basically was inspired to do a whole episode on the idea of motion in comics after Redondo did a book where every page was one continuous background that just was nothing but 2-page spreads that kept continuing on each other, and multiple shots of Nightwing running through or driving through the environment. Some really creative decisions being made and some really engaging covers that capture the eye. I mean, look at that. The idea of the superheroes stand on edges of buildings. It would make us dizzy. Dan Clowes did one like this. That's really cool. It's really cool. Let's see. The comic book Chew did the same thing with TV character cameos. Okay, they put in TV. The main characters from Fringe appeared as cameo. Oh, I like that. That's great. Anyway, Keith Giffen did a Mars Attack story from the perspective of a pet dog. Oh, well, that's clever. All right, this is great. This is great to hear that. Did you know that Passenger Press reprinted DeLuca's Shakespeare in comics in English? Yes. Yes, I did. Yeah, it is in black and white as compared to his colors, but still. Almost done. I'll just mention that World's Finest is a blast as far as this adventure stuff go. I go I showed you things like Wonder Woman and Superman, and I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good. But this one is really fun for both the story and the art. Dan Mora is a great artist. Normally, this is just Batman, Superman, and Robin, but the threat in this has become such that basically the entire Justice League gets roped in. Essentially, the bad guy is a new version of Amazo, who is an android that used to be able to duplicate powers, but in this he can duplicate just anything, and he's evolving. He's an AI threat essentially. Anyway, beautiful artwork, beautiful stuff. Cool villain, cool, clever things that the superheroes are doing to like work together. For instance, the bad guys have kidnapped Ted Cord and Oliver Queen so that they can like steal their money, but they don't know that they're also superheroes. So Batman is able to do like an escape plan by putting together a makeshift bow and arrow for Oliver Queen to do a shot that will like just temporarily weaken the robot. That's a clever thing. That's really clever. This is a fun comic, and I really recommend it. I have read Once and Future, written by Kieran Gillen, Dan Mora art. Dan Mora is an artist that I really enjoy right now. I really enjoy. I should pick up the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. I've always liked that character, but haven't been plugged into Ghost Rider in a long time. And oh, you know what? I also read a couple comics digitally. I did, because they were sold out at my store. So I read them digitally, but I didn't think to grab an image that I could show you. Let me talk about two other comics that I read that were pretty fun. Let me think. Oh, one is Godzilla, Here There Be Dragons. And that is from IDW, written by Frank Thierry. And I'm sorry, I forget the name of the artist off the top of my head. But it takes place back in the 1500s, I believe, the 16th century, with pirates, Caribbean pirates and stuff. And one of them is set to be hanged, but he tells the story of an island that Captain Cook had found, Monster Island, an island that Godzilla is at. So we only get a small glimpse of Godzilla in the first issue, but they've got some stuff I really enjoyed. At one point, you see a map of the world, and there's various sort of like dragons drawn in, and some of them are recognizable as kaiju from Godzilla movies. Ebirah, who's basically like a giant lobster. King Ghidorah, Rodan, Mothra. So that's fun. That's fun. The idea of putting Godzilla into sort of a Pirates of the Caribbean world is good. And yeah, I think that Frank Thierry made it pretty funny as well, but like funny from like character dialogue, not just like taking it unseriously. It's taken seriously. And the other comic I got digitally is a recent Archie comic, one of their horror comics. It's called Camp Pickens, and it involves the cast working at a camp that has things like serial killers and ghosts, and some of the characters get killed off, and that it doesn't really stay on any gore. It's not, even though characters get killed and it's a scary situation, it's not, they don't really show too much graphically, but it feels like the story would be in something like a Sleepaway Camp or a Friday the 13th or early movie or something. And so that one was pretty funny too. And then the last thing I picked up comics wise, this actually comes out tomorrow, but Barnes and Noble had put it on the shelf early. And I was like, well, if they're putting it on the shelf before sell by date, I'll get it. I like Fist of the North Star. And this continues, the journey of Kenshiro versus Kino. They're Hokuto Shinken. They introduce all sorts of new characters in this. Look, this is just an over-the-top, violent, post-apocalyptic war with martial arts. The main guy basically can't be beat. He's essentially Superman with his martial arts, but it does introduce a lot of weird villains, a lot of innocent bystanders, and features just some badass action and violence. It's a blast. It's a total blast. Jinx #1 was more fun. I've heard that Jinx was a good Archie comic. That's interesting. But I haven't read it. Anyway, Yeah, out of all the comics that I read this week, I think that the one I'd recommend the most would have to be Saga. That's probably my pick of the week. Uh, if you want an interesting art experience, and it's a good story, but like a really interesting art experience, I think Nightwing issue 105 is definitely worth picking up and seeing what the artist does there. Bruno Redondo is taking some chances with that. Is there anything else? Oh, I also think that so a couple people I saw in chat didn't love it. I'm curious to see what they do with this. I tend to give Jonathan Hickman time to build up his stuff because I think he's done some really epic stuff before. And I'm very curious where this goes. If it's going to be Hulk fighting monsters every issue, I'm definitely in. That would be cool. That would be something I would love. Christopher Miller obviously reads Fist of the North Star with this reference. I would have picked it up, but I'm already dead. I have not read Bone Orchard Mythos. Is it something you'd recommend I take it? Planning on picking up Homunculus this week. That's been on the radar for years. Cool. I think I saw that was on the shelves at some of the comic stores I was looking at. That's cool. I've never considered covering Obnoxio the Clown. No, I have not considered that. Here's somebody that says, love Homunculus. Okay. That's 2 recommendations for Homunculus. Noted. So some crazy news this week. I don't know what will come up this week in terms of news, but pretty soon we will have the San Diego Comic-Con, and usually there's going to be some big announcements for new creative teams and new titles from all sorts of publishers. So that should be interesting to go over. Again, I really love my new G.I. Joe shirt here. This is from, I think it's pronounced Roosevelt. Look at that. I love it. But I'm going to have some dinner with my family. Today was my nephew's first real day at work at his job. And so I'm sure he's tired and hungry. And my wife is patiently waiting for me. So I'm going to head upstairs and we're going to figure out some dinner together. I really loved spending time with you guys today. I hope you've had some fun. My goal is to have the next comic Tropes out this Sunday. I think I can do it. I'm very excited to talk about it. It should be a really cool video. Yeah, I think you'll like it. I do. So take care, everybody. And you know what I'm going to say. Keep reading comics. Take care, all. Bye.